Okay, on we go with American classics that we have from the Victorian period. Mark Twain, his real name was Samuel Clemens. I think I said earlier, in my own estimation, he's one of the two greatest writers to come out of America. Edgar Allan Poe, Mark Twain. Most people can't name that many things of Mark Twain. He's associated with the Mississippi River. But Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, those are the two that usually people can name. Tom Sawyer, this is the only book that I think I say this all year to my students. I say, you need to read that. You owe it to yourself to read that book. Even if you never have to read another book for a class again, you should read Tom Sawyer. It's easy, it's short, it's fun. He is a rogue hero. And another thing I think about Tom Sawyer, I hope I don't offend English teachers, but the opening paragraph of Tom Sawyer is one word long. It's Tom. The second paragraph is 2 words long. No answer. The third paragraph is 1 word long. Tom. No answer. Where is that scoundrel? And on it goes. I usually like to point that out because I think so many teachers try to pound into kids' heads that a paragraph has to be like 4 sentences long, topic sentence, support, clincher, stuff like that. That's one kind of writing. In narrative writing, that's not true at all. Anyway, Huckleberry Finn is a sort of more profound book, I guess. It's a deeper book. It's a harder book. Tom and Huckleberry Finn float down the Mississippi River on a raft with a runaway slave named Jim. This is the more respected book. This is the easier one. Read them both. He was a humorist. Now, Mark Twain became a very bitter old man. He was not only a funny guy, but he could be so funny. His daughter, I think when she was 13, died in his arms of a disease. I don't know. Maybe that was the point where he just turned. I don't know. But people, Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, and he was a speaker. He traveled the world speaking. Said some of the funniest things. I'll quote this. He said that a gifted person should be able to learn, except for the spelling and pronunciation, a gifted person should be able to learn English in 30 hours, French in 30 days, German in 30 years. And then he goes on to say that only the dead have enough time to learn German. I recently discovered that quote. Later on, maybe I'll give it to you. When I teach German, I'll give it to you better. All right, I hate to go so fast, but fine. John Philip Sousa's Marches. He was nicknamed the March King. For Americans, for Stars and Stripes Forever. It has this wonderful piccolo descant at the end. Washington Post March. At the end of Renaissance Man, they use, I think it's the Stars and Stripes Forever. And I say waltz to two-step because his life was celebrated in a movie called, I think, The Stars and Stripes Forever. I think that was the name of the movie. I think. And what the scene I would like to show from that to my students is where he is playing at a concert, and the waltz. He was playing a waltz by Strauss, I think, and a waltz is based on 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. A classic, wonderful, fun dance. But then there's a new dance called the two-step. And they introduced the two-step with the Washington Post March. And this is da 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 da. It goes like that. It's in 6/8 time for any musicians that are out there. That's in 3/4. This is in 6/8. In 6/8 you can count 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, like that. Da 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 da. I think it's anyway. Barbershop singing, quartets, 4 men singing a cappella. Normally I don't like it too much, but they slide from chord to chord. But if you'll see a movie called The Music Man, That celebrates the turn of the century America. I have to go so fast. You'll hear wonderful barbershop singing in that. You also hear at the climax of it a band. He's a fake. He doesn't know anything about music, and the kids play, and it sounds horrible. But some woman in the audience stands up and says, "That's my Johnny. Play to me, Johnny." It sounds horrible, but I always think of that as the "that's my Johnny" effect. Who cares if it's your Johnny doing it? Jack London. That's not his real name. He wrote The Call of the Wild, White Fang. He's associated with the Yukon Territory. And I like to point out that by the time you get to Jack London, literature has changed. It's not so sweet and sentimental. Now it's realistic. To Build a Fire is a short story about a guy who ultimately freezes to death because he can't get a fire started. He's in the Yukon. Not as famous as a short story called Love of Life, which sometimes I'll read a little bit of that to the students, but it almost turns their stomach when a guy sinks his teeth into the jugular vein of a sick wolf in order to drink the blood and crawl a little further. You know, kids are a little horrified. I mean, remember, my target audience really is 14-year-olds. Edgar Rice Burroughs, you know, people would laugh about him, but Tarzan he's lasted. He's classic. Edgar Rice Burroughs created Tarzan. And you know, right over there were two donkeys that lived here for a while. And that donkey is a burro, and the male we called Edgar, and the female we called Rice. Ricey. Get it? Edgar and Rice Burroughs. I think my mother thought that up. I thought that was pretty clever. Anyway, his science fiction, I never liked Tarzan too much, except Tarzan at the Earth's Core. That was a good one. Hey, I'll say about this, and then I'll show you this, because this will be maybe shocking. Film, right at this time, film, not only in the United States, but in Europe too, film begins to tell stories. They figured out that you could film something and then cut to something else, and then cut to something else, and you could actually tell a story. A guy running along happy, and then you cut to a guy loading a gun. Back to the guy running along happy. Cut to the guy aiming the gun. Back to the guy running along happy, and you begin to understand that guy's going to shoot that guy. So it took about 10 years before they figured out that you could actually do that. All right, back to Edgar Rice Burroughs. Off my shelf, I got some of this stuff. I always felt like I was really slumming it when I was a kid. I loved these things, though. And I was rather tickled Cave Girl. Look at the covers. What is this? They're almost all the same in a way. Land of Terror. Cover's not as good on that one. I was gratified to find out that my son, actually, he read them all too. I didn't know he did, but they were on the shelf. Thuvia Made of Mars. There's a good one. Tanner of Pellucidar. Science fiction by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Check this woman out. Pellucidar. And I'll tell you why I said check this woman out. And probably my all-time favorite, Chessmen of Mars. Absurd, stupid stuff. But recently, John Carter is a movie, and John Carter was one of the characters created by him. Okay, finally, I'll tell you why I said that. There's two artists I want to mention. Norman Rockwell, he designed the Saturday Evening Post covers, and I don't have any one to show you. He really lived in the 20th century, but I think the world that he illustrated was the late Victorian world. So Norman Rockwell, I want to have his name. And then those covers that you were looking at. Check this out. I was given this by a student of mine once at the end of the year. She and her mother gave me this book, and I just thought that was funny. Look at that woman. What would you do if a woman like that got a hold of you? I'd be a dead man. She even wrote me a note in here. That was so sweet. But I guess I don't know. That kind of on that note, I guess on that note we'll end the American There's nothing Victorian about this, so I guess we're getting out of the Victorian era now. All right, we'll see you tomorrow.